For Off the Block, I'm Vinny Lips, and we are now joined by the Fort Wayne men's volleyball head coach, Rock, and coach. Season's about a month away. I know that you guys have been having a good preseason. Can you just talk about how your team is looking with the 2017 season coming up?
Well, we look better than what we did a year ago, but we still have a long ways to go. You can tell, at least from my standpoint anyway, that a year of maturity with a group of young guys has really paid off. And this year I feel like I'm a better volleyball coach. I feel that our systems are being implemented in the right way, and guys have really responded well to the new things that we're trying to do and what we're trying to build and where we're trying to go in terms of our direction. So I truly believe the year maturity for our guys has really made a difference. And we're still young. We're still inexperienced. We're really heavy loaded with freshmen and sophomores. We only have one junior and three seniors. So we're gonna take our lumps again this year. We're not physically huge or the most talented, but so far this fall I've really liked our competitive spirit. We've had some competition dates where we've competed very, very well, so I'm pleased with that, and hopefully we can build on that as we get into the season in about a month's time.
Yeah, and Coach, as you alluded to, last year you guys finished in 8th place in the MIVA, but were able to make the postseason, making a late season push. And I just want to ask, how valuable was that for really some of your young players to kind of, be in that postseason atmosphere, not only get in the playoffs, but then actually experience the MIVA tournament?
I think it really relayed to them that you can't take anything for granted. You can't take matches for granted. You can't take preparation for granted, because there was an opportunity where we almost missed out at the postseason a year ago, and going to the postseason is huge. You get in there, you get to experience a different level in the postseason. Everybody raises their game to another standard, and it showed. And obviously, we played Ohio State, who ended up winning the national title, and they really took it to another level. Even though I thought we competed well early against them, and that the separation took place. But it's a great experience for guys to go through, saying, "Hey, now we know what it takes now to maybe put ourselves in a better position throughout the regular season. We know now what it takes to prepare better, to train better, to practice better, and to compete better, and not take things for granted, so we can have a much better and stronger result down the stretch. And hopefully, the playoff experience against Ohio State can propel us moving forward as well into this season."
Yeah. And Coach, you mentioned a little bit earlier that you've implemented a few new things this offseason. Can you just elaborate a little bit on what maybe one of those things has been that you've implemented that may not have been there last season?
Well, I don't want to give away my secrets or too many of my secrets. I spent a lot of time, and I have in the last several years, but this year, this past summer in 2016, with USA Volleyball and up in Canada, where I'm originally from, with some coaches, and we just studied the game. I tried to take different pieces from various coaches in terms of what they were doing. We're not a big team. We're not a physical team. We can't play the power game. So I tried to implement a better system for us offensively, where we can maybe be a little bit more successful at the net. We're not going to be the biggest team in terms of being able to slow you down either at the net in terms of blocking. So, our focus defensively has been pretty good in terms of, hey, we've got to work on our transition game, being able to dig balls coming at us and being able to transition perhaps out of system. And obviously the serving and pass game, which is, that's the marker at any level, serving and passing. You got to be able to do that at a high efficiency. Ohio State won a national title. Among other things, in terms of their skill, was serving and passing. And so, I tried to learn from a lot of coaches this past summer and what I wanted to see take the direction of this program, and with the players that we currently have, I tried to put in a system where we can try and be more successful than what we had.
And Coach, you mentioned earlier, you got a lot of young players, a lot of players who saw, time on the court last season. But, who has been the player who you feel has made the most progression, has made the most improvement since we saw them last season?
I think there are a couple. I think Michael Keegan, our center, he's really spent a lot of time in the off season in the weight room, trying to get a little bit faster, a little more athletic for the net play. Tony Price, one of our outsides, his ball handling has gotten much better from a year ago. His offensive game has improved along with his serving. Those two guys stand out immediately in terms of returners. Also, Nick Smalter, who's returning as a redshirt senior after an injury a year ago. He's really put in his time in regards to getting his legs and his arm back to where it needs to be to compete at a high level and to last with some durability. So those are three guys in particular who have really shown that they put in the work in the off season to really come back strong and to lead our team this season.
Yeah. And Coach, you look at your conference, a very good conference. You scheduled a tough non-conference. And you have a young team. So what for you and your team would you consider a successful 2017 season?
Well, hopefully, if we can obviously go better than 3-13 in our conference, 10-19 overall, that would be a lot better. But I'm going to measure it this year as opposed to last year. What I really focused on last year was the process and not the result, and that's going to continue into this year and carry into this year. But I'm going to be more evaluating our players and our team on how we compete. Because I don't think it's about the wins and losses still, even though that is very, very important. I think it's the way that we can compete. And if we can compete with teams and not, lay the goose egg as much as we did last year, going 0-3, 0-3, 0-3 consistently, if we can compete more, I will be very happy. If we can, dig ourselves and put ourselves into a position where we have opportunities to win sets and/or matches, I think that would be a nice barometer to also have. Obviously, if we can come out swinging and win some matches, I think that'd be even better yet, and with a year of maturity. But those are the two things that I'm going to be looking for in terms of our level of success. Are we going to be competitive? How competitive are we going to be? And are we going to put ourselves in a position where we can have some victories, whether major or minor?
And, looking at your schedule, one of the interesting nuanced caveats this year I saw with the conference scheduling was you play your big in-state rival, Ball State, not only, twice in, I believe, a span of about 5 days this upcoming season. I just want to ask you, how do you think that rivalry is going to be intensified, just playing two matches in such short time against each other?
Well, I'm going to piggyback on your previous question. The non-conference schedule is really tough. We're going out to California and we're playing spectacular teams out in California. We're going out to the Santa Barbara tournament, the A6 Invitational, and it's a tournament that I love. Coach McLaughlin does a great job out there, and it's going to be great competition. And I think you need to play a tough non-conference schedule. And I think part of the reason why I wanted to do that, Vinny, was because I wanted our team to experience championship level volleyball. And I think we're going to see that when we're there with Irvine, Long Beach State, Northridge, Santa Barbara. I think we're going to see that. With that said, going into our other non-conference matches with the EIVA, we get to play George Mason and Penn State at home. That's going to be really tough to get going. And I just think the non-conference is very important because our conference the last several years, 3, maybe 4 or 5 years, have been really, really strong. And there are nights now that you can no longer take off, which we probably did years and years and years ago. And I just think it helps build into your conference play. In terms of the Ball State matchup for that week in February, it's unique that we're playing them twice in a 3 or 4 day stand. Number one, it was the only time that we can do it. We tried to mimic a different type of schedule, maybe playing one in February, one in March. It just didn't work out with each other's schedules, so that's part of the reason why we're doing it then. Number two, it's also our homecoming week, and we're playing here at home on the 10th of February. It's going to be a big, big night. A lot of things going on from our standpoint, and we're very thankful that Ball State could accommodate us that night to play us. And we're very familiar with each other. So it's not like, a 3-month passing would have made a completely different outcome one way or the other. Playing Ball State, it's going to be competitive. It's a great rivalry for both schools, and I just think, it had to fall into that particular category for 4 days because, number one, we just couldn't figure out another time to do it, but number two is the fact that they were accommodating to us. So we're appreciative of Ball State.
And Coach, one final question for you before I let you go. One of the interesting advantages that you have that not many other coaches in the nation has is your athletic director, and the fact that she's a former volleyball coach, and I'm Kelly Hartley Hutton. And I just want to ask, how nice is that to have someone with a volleyball background as your athletics director?
Well, it's great. It's great from the standpoint of, she's been there, she's done that. She was so complimentary to me last year and to this program last year, obviously going through some hard times in the transition stage. And she was really, really kind in terms of our communication. Obviously some uplifting, some real, and I really appreciated that from her, taking the time to assist whenever she wanted to get in my ear, and I think it's important to have that type of perspective at the top. It helps a young coach like myself. She's been there, done that. So it's nice to have that kind of outside perspective in terms of things that I'm doing right or wrong, and where I'm trying to take this team. So, she's inundated with so many other things that you can't even possibly imagine in terms of meetings and administration stuff, that I just appreciate the time that she spent with me last year, and that we talked and we were able to build a nice professional relationship moving forward. And she's continued to do that again this year with myself in this program, and we're lucky to have her leading the ship here in Fort Wayne athletics, and hopefully we can make her proud this year.